up in wood and our dreams of CIC alive. Holy colors swirling down, let freedom be my guide. Epoxy rivers flowing free across the flag so wide. In a workshop for the brick where art and life collide. Stars and stripes, they come alive beneath my hopeful hands. Grinding down the...
Well, hello everyone. Hopefully it will come on just when I think it's supposed to. My countdown clock said it's time to start. So that's what we're going to do. It's been a few weeks, actually over a month since I did any one of these lives because as many of you know, all my friends out there, I have been on a road trip. And I mean, I had a great time. I was grateful that I was able to do it. And I was going to cover the road trip today and realized that I really didn't have as much time in my life to go over the cool stuff that I saw, especially since I want to show you some of the people's shops that I went through. And I would normally like to send my videos over the stuff I share to the people I videotape before I start sharing about them. But I made sure that I'm trying to make sure that I pick only the stuff that I know people would not mind me showing without them looking at it first. And I had so much on Ryan's shop, I couldn't even fit it all in one live show, I don't think. And I think he's probably the one, those of you that attended the user group meeting, probably the one that most of us would be most impressed with. And so I thought I would go and share the overall road trip that I took. First, talk a little bit about where I went and what I did. If there were any questions, you can ask those. And then I will go into a little bit more about Ryan Drapela Woodworks shop. For those of you that know who he is, either through the YouTube world or through having attended user group meeting in Austin. I know that if you attended the user group meeting, you know who Ryan is. So with that, let's go ahead and get started and see how well I can manipulate the stage here with the videos. And what I wanted to show you first is this is the first leg of my trip. I was going to try to lay everything out in one Google map, but it told me I ran out of ability to add more locations. So that's how long the road trip was. It was 4 weeks, just shy of 4 weeks by a day or two. I started out the road trip here in Temecula, California. Hopefully you can see my my cursor here. And the first place I went to was all just driving. I went to Lordsburg, New Mexico, and I spent the night there. And I was a little surprised at how run down that city had become. It was clear that it had been a boom town at one time, if anybody's familiar, when the oil industry was big in the United States. And a lot of the shops had been abandoned and windows broken out and stuff. So I felt sad for the community, but I was only spending the night there and not much time. So I didn't give it a fair look, to be honest. But I was surprised how run down the city was. I felt bad for the community because I know they had to be proud of their community at one time. Then the next place that I went was down here to Fort Stockton in this area right here. And I stopped in Fort Stockton for two reasons. One was the drive was going to be too long. I tried to limit my drives to anywhere from 5 to 6 hours. Sometimes I'd go to 8 or 10 hours, but most of the time 5 to 6 hours. And I had enough people I was seeing in between. Fort Stockton, I decided to stop at there because I was interested in history and I wanted to see Fort Stockton. And I did. That was some interesting land there in Texas at Fort Stockton. I was expecting Fort Stockton to be a lot bigger than it actually was. So let's see if I have a picture. I think I just have some videos of it. Let's see what we can do here. So this is the video I took at Fort Stockton. Well, here I am in Fort Stockton, Texas, and thought I'd take a tour of what they said is the old fort. Well, it sure looks bigger in their Western movies. Of course, this is the back side. I'm going to walk around to the front and see what I can see. This is the Fort Stockton Museum, or Fort Museum here. So as you can see, it wasn't real big and as impressive as I remembered from the Western days. But of course, those were the movies. But everything in Hollywood is true, right? Anyway, so from Fort Stockton, then you can see the next place I went to was April Wilkerson's area. And April Wilkerson's area was pretty interesting, but April wasn't there. And I'll show that in another video because I want to have some time to get through Ryan's stuff and let you guys ask any questions. So with that, let's go on to my next stop, which I said was April Wilkerson's stop. And then from there, the next stop that I had was actually Ryan Drapela's area down here in El Campo, Texas. And from El Campo, Texas, that was only about an hour, I think, hour and a half outside of the Austin area where we were having our user group meeting. So I did that the day before the meeting and hooked up with Ryan. And a little background on Ryan and I've actually known Ryan since he first started into the YouTube business, probably, maybe 8 years ago. I was one of his first followers. So we had known each other for a long time. We'd met also at the Workbench Con and a couple other times. So we'd been in communication off and on over the years. And I was watching his progress as he built his business and got more popular. And so I've always been a big fan of Ryan's. And he's been very generous with me in communicating and other things. So then after I went to El Campo, I went to the user group meeting for the next 3 days. So right now we're at day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 is El Campo, and day 5, 6, and 7 was all with the user group meeting. I won't go into that for right now. We'll do that another time. And then I went and saw a guy whose name is Caleb White. And Caleb is most well known for his wooden inlays, like the Broinwood inlays. So Caleb does a lot of Instagram videos. He does some YouTube videos. He's not as well known as Broinwood, but he took Broinwood's course just like I did. And Caleb and I have been communicating off and on over the years when I have questions about wood inlays and bits and so forth. And so I've got some shots of his shop, and I'll show that again in a different video or a different live. And from Caleb White, his area, I went up to the Dallas area. And in the Dallas area, or Arlington, I have a nephew, so I visited with that family. And while I was there, the next day I headed over to Dexter. Anybody know who lives in Dexter, Texas? If you guessed Steve Russell from our group in the Mark Lindsay group, and you see him on the video up on screen lots of times, that was where I went. I went and visited Steve Russell up there, and he took me around his maker space in his HOA area, housing retirement community. and it was awesome. And I've got some good videos of that I'd like to show with you guys and share what Steve's got going on up in his shop. It's pretty cool. Him and Kathy are often participating in Mark Lindsay's lives and so forth. And from Dexter, I went up to a small community in Colorado. I think it's called Sassafras, if I remember right. And there I visited a guy named Andy Johnson that I've known for several years. Have any of you attended the 2022, was it, user group meeting in San Diego? You will know Andy. Andy made a presentation on doing wooden inlays. Andy used to be very active in social media, especially Instagram, not much on YouTube or anything. Real well known for his wooden inlays. And in fact, if you want to watch his presentation, if you were a attendee at the 2022 San Diego user group meeting, you can go watch his presentation from that. That's still available up there on their website. So the interesting thing on my, before I went there, I actually left a stop out here. I stopped in Amarillo. I should have mentioned that, Amarillo, which was important. So I'm missing a spot on my map. This heart reminded me. In Amarillo, I spoke with Jake Thompson. He's pretty well known. He has a Saturday show called Saturday Cartoons. And he's a well-known epoxy guy. He does a lot with pin blanks and turning epoxy, and his show is all about pouring pin blanks and pouring other blanks, and then he sells them or gives them away. He does a lot for the what is it? It's a charity group, and it's Make-A-Wish. And I've got some good video of his shop that I think you guys would be interested in, and I will share. Mark says, I see that Mark has a comment here. I believe Andy did President 2022. He may have, Andy. Mark, I'm trying to remember that, but I don't remember. But I do know he was at San Diego. So Jake Thompson, if you guys don't follow him, North County Custom Crafts, Northside Custom Crafts. I'll get you to I'll introduce you to Jake in a future video, and he's a really cool dude, and he does a lot of, like I said, Make-A-Wish donation stuff. So he's a man worth following, and also so you can learn a lot about epoxy, especially if you're a turner, but also a lot of his stuff gets donated. From there, then I went up to Andy's place up here in Colorado, and the funniest part was, this map isn't right because I actually came from Amarillo, and there was like probably 80 miles of back roads, gravel driving that being a Californian, I didn't even know existed anymore. To get to Andy's house, I was driving through all kinds of farmlands and everything else that were just gravel. And I kept worrying that something bad was going to happen out there because there was nobody going to find me as I drove from Amarillo up to Colorado. I finally got there, and then from Colorado, my next stop then, I'm starting here in Stratton, Colorado. That's what it is. So this is where Andy was. I drove up to Fort Collins to spend the night there and get a flat tire changed. Driving those gravel roads, I picked up a nail. And so I had to get a half day in Fort Collins there, getting my tire fixed. And from Fort Collins, I drove through Wyoming. And as I was driving through Wyoming, I hit up here somewhere in the tallest area of the mountains as I was headed over to Billings, Montana. I hit a snow flurry, but it only lasted for about a half hour. So I was good. I was getting worried that my trip was going to end up with me having to deal with snow, and I didn't want to do that. I got to Billings, Montana. Billings, Montana is a friend of mine that used to live in Oceanside with me. We both served in church callings together and became very close. And he moved from California several years ago to get out of the politics and everything else here. Plus, he had family up there, and now his whole family lives up there in Billings with him, and he's loving it. And he also is a woodworker in that he does all of his stuff with bandsaws and hand tools, not CNC stuff, and he makes beautiful trucks that he would like to learn how to possibly do that on a CNC, and so I'll be working with him. We'll see how much I show of that in a future video. And then from there, I went to Idaho Falls, where I lived for a few years and visited with some friends there. Nothing to do with woodworking. That was just all friends. And from Idaho Falls, I drove up here to Yakima. And I only stopped in Yakima because I wanted to get some sleep because that was about an 8 or 10 hour drive. It was a long ways. And from Yakima, then I went up to Port Angeles, Washington, which you can see is right across the bay or water ferry trip over to Vancouver. So I was right on the very tip on the west side here almost of the United States. And I went up there because my 38-year-old son is a sous chef at a resort called Crescent Lake Lodge up there. So I wanted to go up and see him. I hadn't seen him for a couple months, and we had a great time. And then, yeah, Lewis and Clark would be embarrassed, Brooks says. And so from Port Angeles, my next stop was one of our own, a very good friend of mine. He used to be in the group. I'm not sure if he's in the group anymore or not, but Lucky Warwick, who I've known for a very long time. And Lucky and I communicate a lot on the side. And so I wanted to make sure I stopped by and see Lucky, and got some good pictures of his shop. And I'll show that later on if I have time in this video. If not, then a future video. And then our very own Mark Lindsay here. I got a chance to go there and visit with Mark and his wife, which was an awesome treat. There they are, Mark and Linda. So we had breakfast at the Black Bear Diner. And Mark, you're right. There is not that I didn't think you were right, but there is there's Lucky. He's in the group. And so Mark and I, he told me there was a meet at the Black Bear Diner, and there was a chain of that. And I said, I'd never heard of it. And sure enough, I got home and there's a Black Bear Diner local, local to us. So I wish I would have known that before. It was good food. And there's Lucky and his wife. So had a good time with Lucky. Since he's in the shop, I thought I'd show off his family. And we had a good time there. And I just didn't pull over the picture where I was in it with Mark and Linda. I should have pulled that one over too. So now, after I got done visiting Lucky and then Mark, the next map, you see how I had to do 3 different maps here to get it all. I went to San Jose, California area for a couple days. I have cousins up there, and I hadn't seen them since my wife passed away. They had come down in February of 2023 to my wife's memorial service. And so it was nice to hook up with them there. We're all the same age. We're all within a year of each other. Got to visit with them and talk about some old times growing up. That was awesome. And from there, I went to Paso Robles. And in Paso Robles is a woodworking friend and an ex-Navy nuke that I've made friendships. And that's why I love this woodworking community and this community of makers and the YouTube and social media. He found me through social media, and one thing led to another. And we've developed a great friendship because we were both in the nuclear Navy together. His name is Jeffrey Hewitt. And so I visited with Jeff for a couple days. We went golfing. He got me back into the golfing bug, and I've been 3 times since. So I'm glad Jeff got me hooked back on golfing. And from Paso Robles, it was only like a 4-hour drive or so back home, and that's how I ended up the trip. So put 6,360 miles. And I wasn't driving, Tim says, I hope you were driving something good on gas. I wouldn't call it that. I had rented a Ford Edge, Tim. So I didn't want to put all those miles on my car. I have a older Sonata, and then I have an F350 truck. And I wasn't going to drive the F350. That would be a little excess and kill on gas. And it's a Super Duty diesel, and it's a monster. And my Sonata gets good gas mileage, but it has 120,000 some miles on it. So I didn't want to put it on there. So I rented a Ford Edge from the rental company. And so I think it probably got about 18, 20 miles per gallon. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad, but it drove comfortable, and those miles were not on my car. So, well, with that said, Mark says he spent too many days and nights at Camp Roberts just outside of Paso Robles. Yeah. Now, the next trip then, let's see what time or how long are we at? Are we trying to see the time? It's 4:52. See, I've already used up 22 minutes just yapping about my trip directions. So now let's get into the stuff that's interesting. And I would like to share with you a couple videos here of my visit with Ryan. So I'm just going to work through some videos and let me get it so I can see what I'm providing. I tried to number them. So this first one is me just kind of driving up to the shop in El Campo, Texas. Well, it's day 4 of my road trip, and I'm starting off this day by coming to see one of my favorite YouTubers, but just a genuine, awesome guy, Ryan Drapela of Drapela Woodworks, and cutting it close. I've been following Ryan for years now, back before he was cutting it. Mark mentioned what would you say was the biggest surprise of your trip? And I would say I didn't have any surprises that were big, Mark, other than some remembrances of how beautiful this country is. Especially, I will say although I don't favor the weather, I favor the northern Pacific part of the country. Driving through Wyoming was impressive, but when I got into Montana, and going from Montana up to Washington State, the trees, the mountains, the majesty, I just remembered how beautiful it really was, and why at one time I was going to retire up there until my wife's health stopped us from being able to go up there because she couldn't breathe at those altitudes and with that cold with her lung disease. I will say also one of my surprises was probably how big and impressive Ryan's shop was in real life. So that was another one. So we'll see some of that today. I don't know if we'll get through all of it. He was just Drapela Woodworks. He started off with several CNC tips, which got me interested in him. He had a Laguna IQ. I have a Laguna IQ. And he was giving all kinds of tips about how to use that machine when I was brand new. And I was learning quite a bit from him. He was the first one that introduced the idea of chip load and explained it in a way that I could physically understand. So I instantly took a liking to Ryan, and on this road trip, since I was going to be out here in Texas, I wanted to make sure I got to see his shop and meet him. He's been growing quite prolifically, and it turns out that Ryan is going to be a speaker on a panel at the Vectric. So we know that he was a speaker, so I guess I don't need to show that part. His factory is right off a very main thoroughfare. I think he said he has 2 acres. So he's got his house in the back. I don't know if I'll show that in this video, but his house is sitting right between his back shop, and he's got these signs sitting out in front, and these cars are whipping down here at 70, 80 miles per hour. So they better read that sign fast and know where they're going if they're going to pull into his shop. So I'm looking out my car window as I'm driving into Drapela Woodworks, his factory here in Texas, and it's right off a very busy street, 71 East, I think it's called, or State Highway 71. So you got to be careful when you're first coming off of it because you're driven at about 70 miles per hour. So Brooks, I will definitely put a link into Ryan's YouTube channel. It's actually called Cutting It Close. It used to be Drapela Woodworks, but he changed it to Cutting It Close. And he offers several items on his business nowadays. He's really expanded. He talked about that at the user group. He's actually offering an academy now where you it's kind of like other courses and academies. It's kind of pricey, but he's what he does is he takes you through the process of how you get a woodworking business started, what's the most important things, and he focuses on the business aspects. He also has a free group, which I would recommend you join, which is CIC Workshop Startup or something, and I'll put a link to that in there too. So I'll put it all in there. Whatever the speed limit was here, I can't remember, and then you got to catch this, and so I was happy I didn't drive by it. Here's a banner right out in front of his sign, right out in front of his, well, here's a banner right out in front of his factory where he's selling custom leather patch hats, but on the other side of that banner is cornhole boards. So Ryan's advertising to everybody. So let's take a look inside. So you can see how big his factory is. That red building, let's see here if I can, I guess I can't really zoom in on it, but in the back of this big shop here, this metal shop is his house. So he lives right behind here with his wife and his baby, Waylon. This is what Ryan's factory looks like as you walk up. It's a huge building, as we've seen on his shows. We haven't seen it very much from the outside. We've usually seen it on the inside. I'm hoping to find Ryan here. He said he would be here today. So I'm hoping to actually get a chance to visit with Ryan as I walk in. There's the door, DrapelaWoodworks.com, office, Frio, find your fun. And it smells like wood. So one of the things that Ryan also opened up with his woodworking business, he bought a Frio coolers, and that's what you see over there. And so what he does is he takes those coolers and he makes the wooden outside for them. I've been saying I'm going to make one of these for 5 years. I've got the cooler and the wood. I just haven't done it. So he's inspired me to get back to it sometime before Christmas here and use it as a gift. And so I'll be working on that and looking forward to that. But so he's got these Frio coolers. So he's got several businesses. He didn't talk about all of them, but he's got this woodworking business. He's got a cooler business. He's got a leather hat business and other businesses that are similar. So here is a shot of me up on the second deck where he has his offices, just waiting for Ryan to come out and chat with me. But I'm just taking a big shot as across the shop so you can get a good perspective of how big that thing is. As you can see, he's got things really moving right here. And so, like I said, it's a big shop. Ryan has, I think, in my talks with him, about 30 employees now. So I'll show you a little bit of his startup. He grew from him doing it to him. His dad is his brothers. He actually has 3 brothers that all work with him. He's the baby of the group, but he's got his older brothers all helping out, running the shop and doing various aspects of the business. And his dad is still very active. And so it's a family affair. And Ryan's dream, as he's talked about before, is he wants to grow his business big enough so that he can have, I'll call it, my words, not his, a family compound. He wants a ranch, a big enough ranch where he can have his business and have all of his family all living together there. So he's very much a family man. And it's also something that I really respected about Ryan, or do respect. So now I'm going to give you a show of where Ryan started out. So he started out in his dad's barn.
Started up.
And he actually started the woodworking and all of that when he was 16. He's, I think, 29 now, still a young man, but he's been going at it hard for several years.
Yeah, so this is where I originally started the shop at. Back over here, I was actually making beer bottle cap tables. And so this is my dad's, there's still his dad's barn, but he had so much junk everywhere. So I like slowly cleaned it out and now he's kind of taking it back over. But
Now
back
that you
over,
got your shop, huh?
yeah, now that I have my shop, but I still have all the equipment that we had, right? I mean, we have a Woodmaster drum sander right here, Woodmaster planer right here, jet oscillating wide edge sander right there. Got the original miter saw that I bought. Not the original. I bought a $75 miter saw from Harbor Freight with a 20% off discount. And then I was able to eventually, on a special, buy the Divots for $400. But back over here is just where I used to pour all the wood storages.
So I'm going to look up, I just remembered as I was watching this that Ryan actually put out like an hour or 2 hour video on his YouTube channel, a documentary style video of his startup, showing him and his family in his living room, how they started out and grew their business. And so I'll also put a link to that inside of this video when I get a chance.
My little projects that I never finished. My pipe clamp rack, I mean, everything. This is where I worked at every single day when I'd come home from college. I mean, I worked in here for 4 years, every single day, gluing up stuff, leaning all my glue panels here. Scroll saw right there, how I used to do all my inlays. And then you take a router and, cut out your letter.
You did old school inlays.
Yes.
You did it by hand.
Yeah, and then that's when I discovered CNCs, and I wanted to buy the CNC to help me with the inlays, and I used to get this really pretty like small tip pecan right here, which is just awesome. Yeah, it says mine, Ryan's, nobody ever threw it away. But yeah, so that was what all of us always had to use a scroll saw growing up. So Dad would make us make Christmas ornaments with the scroll saw and just cut different stuff out. And so other than that, this was a metal shop. So there's welders and stuff in here and wrenches on the walls. And then, I have some wood up there. I used to take down old fences, old private fences, and then save all the wood from those private fences and make stuff out of them because it was free. So this is thing. And I originally had the CNC right here. This is the original spot I had the Laguna IQ. Right there. I used to get rained on, all that stuff because the roof leaks. And then eventually got the saw stop. And then as we started growing.
So what made you decide to get the saw stop?
I cut the tip of my thumb on a table saw.
Okay.
This is
Dad.
Pops.
How you doing? Hey, good. This is Dad Ryan. No, what was your name now?
Tommy.
Tommy, that's right.
Yeah. Yep. So this is Dad's shop. And so as we started growing and expanding from there, we started kind of taking over more of this area over here. And so the next thing we did, you can actually see, I had to pour, this all used to be horse stalls. This is where horses would come in. So I poured concrete in 2017 right here and eventually took out some of the horse stalls that were here and made a CNC room. And so you can kind of see this edition of it right here. If you want to come in the CNC room. And so this was then the CNC room. And so Laguna Swift, this room was actually built around the Laguna Swift. So I don't know how the heck we're going to get it out of here. But had these big doors put in because we were doing sheet goods. So we wheel in the plywood, slip it on here, slip it off. And then we'd have this one running. And then eventually we had two of them running side by side that we had engraving, and then this one cutting out. And so, and then once they get engraved, you'd take the thing off, you'd turn around, put it on this table, you'd sand it off. And so you'd sand off the product, and then it'd go outside to over there where we'd sand it or dip it and stain it and all that stuff.
So you had a production mentality even back then?
Yeah, I mean, we did $1 million a year out of here before I moved over to the shop.
And I see you still use the same old school
Yep, they work.
brackets.
They work. They haven't failed me yet. I never hit these. I always hit these. That's the thing that I hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's what some people get so fancy. And like at the end of the day, you do what makes you like, I have a business mentality, but like these work. And once you learn how to cope with them, they work. And like, this is the exact same MDF that we started with. This is the original MDF on the machine. I never replaced. And you can actually see where right here, where I used to screw down the piece of plywood when this thing was cutting out the docking stations, we'd put it on here and actually screw down the plywood right there. And so you can tell where I just wore it out. And that was my hold down. I put clamps on the corners and screwed it down there. And so, and this is the second one we got, or that's the third machine, but second IQ, and that's the Swift. And now we're taking that BAMX right now. We're making, these are really cool gifts actually. They're gonna be 2 decks of cards, dominoes, dice, and a pin.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you can engrave them and do.
So those of you that didn't go to the show or haven't watched Ryan's videos, he has a product, and I just bought a few sheets of it and had it shipped home. Some of you, I think, at the show bought some. He calls it BAMX. It's a combination of basically different bamboo products that when you engrave into it with your CNC router, you have the lighter color in between the veneers, the layers. Each veneer on each, it's a 0.75 inches thick, and each of the veneers are 1/8 of an inch thick. So you basically have about a ½ inch. You have a ½ inch in between of nice light wood that you can engrave in, or it sticks out, and it's pretty cool. I haven't made anything with it because I had some other things I have to do. I'm getting close to finishing cribbage board, and then I'll be going after it. So that's what you're seeing him here. This is a product he made with his BAMX.
Whatever you want, but you take, this is you think you can make 2.5 or something like that out of a piece of BAMX. And so, you stuff it with things, and this is like $100 gift box right here that you can engrave and whatnot, full of like a family game night set. So we're making some of those for Christmas gifts and whatnot. But,
That's what these are for.
and here's a,
And that's one of the things. That's one of the ones that got me first watching you.
yeah. This is not the OG. This is one I did.
No.
So this is a photo V-carve. It was one of his first videos. It actually was one of the first videos I saw that Ryan made where he did John Wayne. And that's worth the video going and looking at. But even more impressive is one he did of Stephen Jobs that he used epoxy on. But this one was white, I think it was melamine or plywood, and then he covered it with black paint, and the picture revealed itself. It was the first time I saw photo V-carving, and it was so impressive.
This is the John Wayne one. Right?
Yeah, well, this is a different.
OG,
This is
what do you mean?
so this is not the original John Wayne one I did. It's the second one, but I did duplicate it.
And
so,
what's it made out
this is made out of soft maple.
of? Soft maple.
Yep.
And what size V-bit did you use on this?
60-degree V-bit.
60-degree V-bit, huh?
Yep.
And did you set the depth of it, or did you let it set its own depth?
I let it set its own depth.
It looks like a 45-degree angle.
Yep. 45-degree angle.
It turned out so awesome.
Yep.
It
Yep.
turned out so awesome.
And you still had a little bit of chip out, like right underneath here, right there, but it still looks good. I mean, it looks
Okay,
really
you
good.
got me. I got to go back home and try the V-carve.
Yep.
Photo V-carve again.
Up. So this little gift set right here, you open it up. We're going to put dice and a pen or a pencil. And then you have a family game night set. You engrave on the top. It's a really good gift. Like right here is a feed room, So like it's inside the barn. I mean, here's our feed room. You got our corn, our horse feed, like this is the feed room. And so as we're working in here,
You needed a snack to come in here?
well, I mean, horses would be walking around, and we originally would sand right here. And so this is where we bathe our horses at, but we'd sand right here on an old kitchen table while the CNC was going. And then eventually it got so big where mom was finally gave in and let me concrete the last 2 horse stalls in here. And so we concreted that. And then this area, which is now the studio, but this is where we actually would started to sand and all that stuff.
So this is where you do your videos and
yeah,
stuff?
this is where I do a lot of my videos in there, which I'll show you. But yeah, I mean, this is nothing was fancy. And then before we go in there, so we used to sand and stain, you know, engrave right here. And then over here is an interesting spot right here. So we used to brand and router over here. So you can tell we used to have router stations set up right here, all on a light switch with an overhead light. And so we'd router right here, we turn around, give it to the branders, go over there to the sanders, go in there to the engraving. And this was our packaging room. So in here, it's a storage now, but we had all of our inventory right here. And then you can tell we did staging. We have our shrink wrap machine. We'd have a heat tunnel and it'd come out here and we'd stick it on a wagon and the wagon would go back to my parents' house and we'd ship out of my parents' house. And so that is how the whole thing operated. So it's pretty cool. Like
Yeah,
the way,
it's pretty cool.
like that is the way.
The way you made it work and then expanded.
Yep. And so in here now, we built this year. And so we wanted a quiet place to film just because it's so loud in the shop all the time. And so we built the studio out. And that's where now I have a film over here and have the Onefinity over here that I get to mess around with. And
Yeah, I saw this. I noticed this in your last video or two where you'd had this fancy wall built behind you all of a sudden.
yeah.
He's done something with us studio-wise.
Yeah. I just wanted it to be quieter. And then like whenever I came out with CIC
You
Academy.
used the band mesh to build your wall, didn't you?
Yep. Which it looks good.
It does.
So one of the things I wanted to do is show you a little bit about what he's got going on with his previous shop, how he started out fairly humble, as you guys can see. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into what his shop looks like today. You saw a little bit about that, but I'm going to go into a little bit more about how he's grown from that humble beginnings of starting out in the barn, picking up one IQ, then another IQ and a Swift, him and his family working it all to what he's working with today. And like I said, he's been growing his business since he was about 16. He started out, he said, then he worked it through college, and from college then continued making his man stand. For those of you that were there, know it was his big first seller on Etsy. And from there, then he's grown into the shop that he has today. So I'm going to go ahead and take you over to the shop he has today. I didn't want to get into his studio for right now because I think we're more interested right now in looking at the shop. So let me show you some of the equipment and some of the stuff he does in his shop.
And there's Ryan right there. Ryan's showing me around his Frio coolers area. So this is, some of you might have heard about his Frio line, which is coolers and things and cups and laser cups. And there's one of his employees right there. What's your name? That is Deborah, my late wife's name, Deborah. And he's got a laser system over there. He's been lasering all kinds of cups. Got a 1,000 cup order or something like that. Look at all this stuff. Brian, is there anything you'd like to tell us about this part of the business?
This is a little known part of my business. It's actually a pretty big deal. And so this room right here, we make leather patch hats. Any of the hats you see, we have cups going, just another laser. So it's technically not a CNC router like I study on and focus on, but CNC lasers work the same way. Just a little slightly different in how they shoot the beam. But yeah, it's the same operation, systematizing stuff and trying to sell a product. And
where do you make the hats? You said you make them in here?
Yeah. So we cut leather from just a rawhide on the laser.
Okay,
and
so
then
you use the laser to cut it.
Yep, laser to cut it from just a rawhide like this right here. You know, just a rawhide. And then we come over here to this heat press and we stick a glue adhesive on it. And then we bring it to the hat press and it actually glues the thing to it. We don't do any kind of sewing because the pressing method works just as good. We finally found a really good adhesive. And so, yeah, these are Cutting It Close Academy hats that we make that we send out to the members whenever they join. And yeah, and so we do a lot of stuff for farmers and ranchers and stuff like that around here with leather patch hats.
Seems that's becoming a pretty popular business for laser engravers, the whole idea of making hats.
Yeah, and it's not hard to get. I mean, this is like $300. This is a top of the line hat press. It's a little over 1,000. You know, it's not hard to get into it. The hard thing is getting a contract with Richardson hats because you have to buy like 10,000 hats from them a year.
So what am I looking at out here, Ryan?
The line down our shop. So you have right here's our dip room. Actually, this is our last stage in the shop process. But this is where we dip product at in oil and stuff. And so like even this right here is some Bamex cutting boards that we're doing that we're actually sending off to Amazon.
What's that, man?
Okay, I'm not sure how long the audio has been off. Let's see if I'll back it up just a little bit. I took myself out of the stage, and when I I'm going to add myself back to the stage, and we'll see. Let me know if you've got the audio.
Oil and stuff. And
Can you hear it now?
Like even this right here is some Bamex cutting boards that we're doing that we're actually sending off to Amazon.
How's that Bamex hold up against knife blades and stuff like that?
I actually think it holds up better than like walnut and maple, to be honest. And so we're sending this off to kind of compete with walnut cutting boards because it looks like it. It holds up better. It doesn't warp. It doesn't turn that haziness that walnut cutting boards do if you use them. Now, on the counterintuitive side of it is these are walnut cutting boards that we sell to real estate agents and stuff like that. These are like small gimmies. We laser engrave their name right there. And so this is our crazy, cool, really simple drying rack that we use. Just plywood with some pegs in it.
That's a good
And
idea.
we dip it in a big thing of mineral oil, rack it up. Everything goes over here, jumps into this. And then we just strain it out with a cheesecloth and some rags back into this. And then we pour it back in there. And we get our mineral oil in a 55-gallon drum. So that's all mineral oil right there. Up there is one of the very first bottle cap tables I did. That was my college bottle cap table. So that's made with 1996 beer bottle caps.
That's a lot of bottle caps.
Yeah.
What kind of CNC is this? It's an on?
On-strewed. So it's a dual table, dual head on-strewed. So this table acts independently. And what's so cool is You know, that's the vacuum pump on and off. So it's not on right now, but it's nice. You'll love to see it run. So we got our dust collection running right now. So you can see all our dust tubes, and that's kind of that echo you hear. 10,000 CFM. We just had different blast gates everywhere, you know, different blast gates for different stuff that we run. Like for our wide belt sander right here, we have that 12-inch port going to it, and the blast gate is on an air valve.
So how wide is this sander?
43-inch.
43 inch.
43-inch triple head. Actually, let me cut off that blast gate real quick. And so, yeah, so this is our wide belt. And so you got 3 heads. We typically go 80, 120, 150. And so you go up the grit range. Sometimes if we're rough sanding, we'll go 60, 80, and then cut this back head off. Each head rotates a different direction. So this head goes with the grain, this head goes against it, and this head goes with it again to smooth everything out. Pretty cool. And so like to remove a belt,
That's pretty fast.
giant sandpaper belt here. And they make the big pads technically for these, but they're so expensive. You just use another belt at the end of the day.
He was talking about a cleaning pad.
So this is our rip saw. This is our shop saber over here. It's our other CNC.
So your first CNC, was that the Laguna?
Laguna IQ 2x3 was the first
one
one.
that I got.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that was your first one.
Yep.
And then how did you decide to grow into, I mean, there's no comparison now, right? So how did you decide to grow into, what was your next big one? And then when did you decide to get the next big one? And,
Yeah.
because that's a lot of investment money you had to put into that. You had to take a big, I'm sure you didn't have that sitting in your pocket. So you had to take a big leap of faith that your business proposition was going to work.
The only leap of faith I really ever had to take, to be honest with you, was the very first CNC. I had the product idea. I was already selling like inlaid cutting boards. And so I got the CNC to help me do inlaid cutting board. And then I was able to sell enough to kind of pay for the CNC, but not quite. And then I came out with a product that was solely based on the CNC. And so that was with the IQ. And then
that all on your Etsy shop already?
that was all in the Etsy shop. And then all the inlaid cutting boards were not. That was Facebook Marketplace, friends and family, you know, all that. But then Etsy started kind of working. And so I had the 2-foot by 3-foot Laguna. And then when it got so busy, it was running 12 hours a day, 12, 16 hours a day. Then I upgraded to a 4-foot by 8-foot Laguna Swift. But it wasn't a leap of faith. It was like, hey, I'm so busy, I need another CNC that's bigger that can do sheet goods. So then I got that one. Then the Swift could keep up, the 4x8 Swift, but the IQ couldn't keep up with the amount of things we were engraving every day. So then I had to get 2 Laguna IQs. So I got another IQ just for engravings with the Swift. And then all 3 of them were so busy, and I wanted to start making stuff using 1/2-inch bits. And so I ended up building this shop and getting a shop saber. But at that point, it was just a check because there wasn't a jump of faith. It was like, I'm so busy, the demand's there, so it's a no-brainer. And so then I got that. And then this one ended up getting so busy, it was running 24 hours a day. So then I had to get 2 shop sabers. And then when both of those got so busy, I didn't have any more footprint. So I had to get another machine that could cut twice as much in the same footprint. And so I had to get this one. And now this one is really expensive. It was a little bit more of a leap of faith, but all these machines pay for themselves. So like what I tell people when they're doing all this, most of it is just math. And so your first CNC is your little bit of leap of faith, but you know, you can always resell it for probably 80% of the value, 75% of the value you bought it for if you don't use it that much, or at least 50%. So it's not that big of a jump. And then like whenever I bought the Laguna IQ, I was making inlaid cutting boards for $100 and I was selling them for $100 a piece. And I was doing it by hand. So the CNC saved me 3 hours on each cutting board and I was still selling them for $100 a piece. So my easy math was the machine cost me $6,000. If I sold 60 cutting boards, which I've already sold 60 prior to that, if I just sell 60 more, the machine pays for itself. And so that was my math. And it ended up doing that. And then it was like, well, how can I make more money? And then kind of grew it. But anyways, so.
But each time you went to one of these bigger machines, you typically had to get somebody to be able to run it for you, right?
Yes. I was running for the most part for 3 years. But then now we have Anthony, which hopefully he'll come around. He's the very first employee I ever had. Standing in the horse barn. He's been with me for 9 years now. And so he runs all the CNCs actually. So he's amazing.
One guy can run all the CNCs for you at the same time?
Yep. Yeah, at least these 2. When we had the Swift, the 2 IQs going and the 1 Swift, we had to have 2 people in the room because you had, it was like a 7-second change out time. At least to take it off, you had to turn, you had like 18 seconds of sanding, and then you had to put the other product on and engrave for usually 3 minutes and 30 seconds. But you had to keep track, and so you're running 2 CNCs and a third. It was a lot. And so now we have the shop sabers, have the on-strud, and we're rocking and rolling.
So as you can see, Ryan is pretty impressive with his shop. I do want to respect your time. It's 5:27, but I think there's a couple other machines. I don't have time to show you everything, but I think there's a couple other machines that I think you guys will be impressed with. So I'm going to take a few minutes ahead of time and let you know that if you feel like going, obviously it's always your prerogative, because you don't have to stick around and listen to my show. But I am going to go just a little bit longer because I want you to see a couple of these other big equipments. And I won't show you everything, but I'll show you a couple that are some of the more impressive ones. And so I wanted to give you that heads up ahead of time. And thank you right now if you decide to leave because you got other plans. Lucky and Brooke says, what is the vacuum under the Karen? I'm not sure what the Karen was. So let me, it slipped by me, Brooks. So I'm not sure, but he might have had a little shop vac or something there that I just didn't notice because everything else is being sucked up by that big dust collection he has. And I did get a picture of his dust collection, which is basically a 2-story event. He has a huge, looks like a regular dust silo that he fills up and gets dumped every week, I think he said. Sorry, I can't answer that specifically. So let's go to the next one here. And here's a rip saw that he uses to make his glue ups. So he basically has, oh, you guys didn't see that. Let me go back. Re-show that. So he uses this rip saw. You can see there's 2 people operating it. And I just wanted to show a quick show. And you can see the stack of blocks that he has down here. And these will all be glued up. And I'm going to show you his glue up machine, which is pretty impressive. Now, one of the things Ryan did the whole time we were walking around is he was always checking his people's work. And that's what he does. He walks around and he was giving feedback. And sometimes that feedback was pretty direct. So I didn't want to include all of that personnel stuff in there, but just wanted you guys to know that he's constantly going around and checking the quality of the work as he walks around his factory. So here's a glue up machine. I've got a couple videos of the glue up machine that is pretty impressive. And he has a video on his channel where he is doing a race against one of his employees. He's gluing it up manually, and the other person is gluing with regular clamps, and the other person is gluing it up with this machine. It's a pretty interesting video.
So I've seen this on your machine. Your
Yep.
glue up.
Yep. We'll be gluing some up here pretty soon.
You did the race, right?
Yes.
This is the one where you did the race.
Yeah, I did the race with Brian. Yeah.
With Brian.
With Brian back over there. Yeah.
That's the guy you did the race with.
Yeah,
And those
right
are
now,
all
we're just trying to
glued
glue
up,
all of our scraps.
And
so-
Scraps and other boards in the back up there.
Brian.
I got a question for you. When you did the race on the YouTube video, did you really just let up with the boss?
Did a tiny bit.
Yeah, I thought maybe.
Tiny bit.
I thought maybe you had to.
It was just, I think you do it.
He did whip my butt, though. He did whip my
A
butt.
little bit fair. That was it. I didn't want to hurt his ego too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad.
I hear you.
It's hard to hurt that ego. I got a big head. Yeah. Yeah. So everything back here, Brian, y'all actually finally organizing all these panels? Because I was like looking this morning.
Are you all saying right now that you don't have the video, or was it when I accidentally had my face up there? So let me know in the comments if you still can't have the video, but I think you're seeing it. I think those are old comments. Thank you.
And I was like, I don't know which is which. You know,
Yeah, no, a lot of it is already organized on the bottom. I'm just organizing the pallets that I put up on the
So
top.
here's all these glued up.
when y'all do that, man, stick a piece of paper on it, and you know, like panel size and shit. Like, so you look at this pallet and you're like, I don't know what that is because you got 1 inchers in there and then 1 1/4.
Yeah.
But like, do some kind of labeling system on these. Let it so we walk around. Because like I feel like some of these panels are made and we're gonna lose track of what's made unless y'all.
What we're working on.
Okay.
That's his
yeah,
brother on the
it
left
was
there
just
with the
like,
black shirt.
I made that Brian aware of that he needs to start.
Yeah, because I don't know if we have to glue up panels for quite some time.
No, we shouldn't have to.
Minus the 24.
Here's the machine he uses
But-
to glue up.
That's all Bamex right there. You know, you put your glue down. So you put your glue down, bring these clamps up, you move this over, hold it down, and then
So I've seen this on your machine, your
Yep.
glue up.
yep. We'll be
I
gluing
turned
some up
off
here
the
pretty
wrong
soon.
video, guys. Sorry about that.
Right?
Yes.
This is the one where you did the race.
Yeah, I did the race with Brian. Yeah,
Brian?
with Brian back over there. You know, you put your glue down. So you put your glue down, bring these clamps up, you move this over, hold it down, and then a little wrench and bust that
Now you
loose.
gotta get a little helper to get it off.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah. There. So now it'll pick that up. So then it does it. You release this, hope it doesn't pop, which it shouldn't. And then, yep. Yeah. Impressive / expensive.
Yeah, impressive / expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. So you step on this, to show you just real quick. So you step on this. Oh. All right. Step on this,
Oh, I see.
and the glue all pops up like that. So it is pretty cool.
All right, let me show you just one last thing that's a pretty cool tool. I use a sanding mop on my drill press, but this is a sanding mop on steroids.
Yeah, so this right here is nice. So if you have like small pieces, you know, it's really hard to sand. You just turn it on, you know, and you can just get after it with these small pieces like that. And I mean, it's like, it's beautiful. So like we have to like this, it's like, well, how do you sand all that in there? And you just flip it and all these sharp edges. You have sharp corners, you know, and it just, I mean,
Well, I think I've given you enough. It's a pretty impressive shop, as you can see. And Ryan is a young businessman, young relative to me, I will say. But he is pretty impressive. And he's putting out several CIC, cutting it closer, CNC business. He's got a business course now, a group kind of like Learn Your CNC. I have not paid for it yet because I'm frankly not worried about building a business. But if you're somebody that is really trying to think about building a real business with an income, I think it would be worth putting a few bucks up and joining Ryan's CNC or CIC Academy, because I think he could teach you some real good things. You can see he's running a multi-million-dollar woodworking business now, and he started out in his parents' house and a lot of industry, and has good ideas about how he got his first start and sold his first $1 million product. And he shares some of that in his YouTube videos. He releases a video every Sunday, and he started going some back to basic videos recently based on feedback from a few people. And I think he is somebody that if you're interested in CNC stuff, and especially how to make money from it and how to not maintain your CNC, but how to think about things like chip load and ways to think about your business and so forth. He's a good guy to be aware of, even if you don't purchase anything. He is a very impressive young man. He was impressive over the YouTube, and he's more impressive after having met him in person. He's a great person. So with that, I guess I'll ask, is there any final questions before I say goodbye? Okay, with that, it was a pleasure to be with you. And in the future, I'm going to release some more videos of the different shops that I looked at. I'm going to round this one out with a couple more things that Ryan shared. And so you will have seen most of it, but that's what will be in one of my videos. I want to make a full road trip video with, it'll be a playlist with several different versions. And Sargon, he doesn't make a bunch of different products, but in my video, you'll see several different trays and stuff that he does make. I didn't put that out, and go check his Etsy shop. He does a lot of stuff on his Etsy shop, and he does a lot of stuff through his YouTube. One of the impressive ones that he is making these days is, let's see if I have a picture of it. No, but I do have this picture here. I'll show you. This is a couple other photo V-carves he did that was pretty impressive. So there's Steve Jobs, and there's Andrew Carnegie. So with that, I'll close and say goodbye. Have a good night. Thanks for visiting. Don't forget to put the thumbs up on the videos, guys. It helps get it out in front of people. And give me any comments that you think I need to do for improvement or otherwise. All of that interaction helps. Thank you very much.